And this is verse number 9 today. So in the translation, Prabhupada is saying, one should treat animals such as deer, camels, asses, monkeys, mice. We have no mice. Snakes, birds, and flies exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. So this is very amazing and striking translation. That how one should see all the animals as one's own son, he's saying. So this is really amazing. So in this list, you don't find cows mentioned. This is something interesting because it was so obvious that cow, is worshipable mother. So that's why in the list, cow is not even mentioned also. This is understanding. And Srila Prabhupada did so much, expresses grief, talking about how so many slaughterhouses are maintained to kill the cows. So what to speak of all these animals. So, cow is not in the list. That means it is our understanding. So I was hearing one lecture of my spiritual master. He was saying there was one lady. So she called police. She complained to police because she saw a dog, and the dog was tied, and the noose was very small. The rope was very small. And the dog was suffocating. So then this lady took so much of compassion, and she felt so bad that she immediately called police, and police came, and then police investigated everything, and then they put some fine on the owner of the dog. And then they told the instruction to that owner that you should have at least this long, rope and things like that. And then everything was fine. And then somehow the police, one of the person there, he just inquired, by the way, what did you take in your breakfast? He just inquired like that. And then she told, I just took beef. So she took in her breakfast beef. And then that struck to them that how somebody who is having such compassion for the dog, but he did not even think about when he's taking his breakfast as beef. And then she started arguing, no, that is, the dog is a pet, so you should take care of the pets. And then cow is not a pet. Cow is, so in their civilization, they're not considering cow as pet. They're considering only dog as pet. So this is ridiculous because they're all living entities. So even if you, in some country, they may be considered pet, some country they may not be considered pet. It doesn't matter. Some other countries that may be considered as pet. But that's not the point. The point is that they're living entities. How can you just kill them, for your own tongue? So, and somebody becomes more aware of the position of cow, then there is no question of killing. It's about worshipping. Cow is worshipable. It's very dear to Krishna. So you can see such a hypocrisy. So this kind of compassion for the dog which that lady had, it's of no much value. But here, what is explained, it is not that this kinds of deer, camel, asses, monkeys, one should take care alone, and when you find some, in someone house they put a dog and they have such kind of compassion and they take care of their dog so well, but at the same time they're eating meat. So that is hypocrisy. But that is not kind of vision which pure devotee has. So the devotee's vision is different. The devotee considers all these living entities as Krishna's living entities. So this is one very important point about family life, Grihastha. Generally, tendency of Grihastha is that to think many things of their mind, like the house is mine, the car is mine, the wife and kids are mine, all different paraphernalia are mine. So this is generally that is kind of mentality may come in. This is mine, that may come. That's why the solution what Bhagavatam gives is like we were discussing the other day also, that a Grihastha should consciously think that this house is Krishna's, the wife and kids are Krishna's, the car is Krishna's, all the paraphernalia is Krishna's, money is Krishna's. So when they change that mentality, same way all these living entities also, they're also Krishna, they're Krishna's living entities. So when we develop this kind of vision, then one can think about taking care of all this paraphernalia of Krishna, because it is not mine. It is not meant for my enjoyment. In Christianity, they have this kind of perverted understanding. Sometimes they have this understanding that the animals have no souls. This kind of understanding they have sometimes. Some Christians they say like that. So one of the Christians was arguing with me that they're creatures, they're meant for our enjoyment. They have no soul. How they have no soul? It's quite obvious to see that they are having birth, they are growing, they are also maintaining, they are also having the production of byproducts, they are bending, they are dying. Prabhupada says the six symptoms, six changes are happening. So how is it different from us? Just because he cannot argue or protest you with some sound philosophy or something, you kill them. So Prabhupada also told that just like small kids, they are innocent and they are not able to protect themselves so much, but they need protection. So same way animals are also like children. So they just because they are not able to protest, they are not able to argue with you, they are not able to raise voice, then we just kill them. So that's not good. So that's why Prabhupada said this. It's like animals, they are also like children only. That's what he said. So you can see that the vision of a devotee is that, especially here, for Grihastha is saying that we should see that all these are Krishnas. They are Krishnas. Krishna's living entities. Then one can give up this speculative attitude. So, and here Prabhupada is saying, one within Krishna consciousness understand that there is no difference between the animals and the innocent children in one's home. Even in ordinary life, it is a practical experience that a household dog or cat is regarded on the same level as one's children, without any envy. So, generally, this kind of violence is there because of envy. So, Prabhupada is also explaining this. So, envy is the root cause of all this hatred and violence, actually. So, Prabhupada also equated envy with meat eating. Sometimes it explains like that, because they are envious. So envy means what? I live, you die. So they cannot tolerate someone, someone's existence, or they feel not happy about others' existence, others flourishing, and one tends to exploit others. That is envy. So, but when one gives up envy, then one can actually take care. One can see that it's all Krishna's, Krishna's part and parcel. So, because divinity has come only in this world and being Krishna, that's why he has envy for all the living entities. And that's why there is hatred, and that's why there is violence like that. So, say Krishna consciousness is a practical solution for this problem. So, when somebody becomes Krishna conscious, then he can give up his envy. And when he gives up envy, then he can easily see everybody else as the object of affection and care, not of exploitation. One can easily see that. The dint of one's Krishna consciousness. We see the example of Mrigari. Mrigari was such a butcher, such a killer of the animals. He would kill them half and he would take pleasure doing that. So such kind of ghastliness was there, such kind of exploitative attitude was there. But just by association of great saintly personality, Narada Muni, he got completely transformed. He became so Krishna conscious that he was not even ready to disturb ants also. When Narada Muni and Bharat Muni came, he was not even ready to disturb the ants. He was finding difficulty in offering obeisance because ants were there. Same thing you find in Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat, when he was enlightened, he was self-enlightened. We can see when he was carrying a palanquin, then he was concerned about the ants. So you can see that how these great souls have shown such level of non-enviousness. That even in their regular affairs also, they were very reluctant to cause inconvenience to even small creatures also, like that. Like I heard once from the Raghava Maharaj, his servant was having some hot water, very hot water, and Maharaj used it for some purpose, and then that servant suddenly threw it on the grass, so very hot. And Maharaj said, "Hey, why you are throwing this on the grass like this? It was expressed right too. Maharaj said, but it is unnecessarily giving pain to the grass. It's very hard. Why to touch it? The disciple was shocked. Maharaj was thinking about grass also. We, there is some violence involved in even cutting the vegetables and all, cutting the trees or vegetables. So unnecessary killing is not, is not Westerners don't even unnecessary killing of vegetables also in that sense, because we offer it to Krishna. Krishna has recommended, so we offer it to Krishna and we take it. Otherwise, we are not vegetarian in that, because there is some killing involved there also. But we have to do it because that's, this is the rule in this material, Jiva Jiva Jivana. Krishna has recommended that only for us. And that also we may take those vegetables and fruits, offer it to Krishna, and then we accept it. So that way we can be free from that envy, like that, because we are offering it to Krishna and we are following Krishna's words, like that. Otherwise, unnecessary killing of even plants also is violence. It is not appropriate. Bhagavatam recommends that. So you can see that how these great souls, they have that kind of non-invasiveness. And the opposite of non-invasiveness, they have affection. They have love for the soul, on the platform of soul. So Paramahansa Gopal Maharaj, once he was traveling, so one bird got stuck, not stuck, got hit from the car. So it became very injured. And then Maharaj immediately told that, can I go back? Because the bird got injured so much. They told Maharaj that, we cannot take back, because it is one way only. Then the car had to go further. And then because of Maharaj's insistence, he was insisting so much, then they took U-turn and came back. And then Maharaj was sitting there and he was chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra for that bird. Until the bird left the body, like that. He was chanting. So you can see that how the great souls are, they have given up, they have no envy, at the same time, they have so much affection for the soul also. They have to think of that soul to get delivered also in the cycle of birth. So this is very unusual actually. It is like what is current civilization where mercilessly so many animals are killed, so many slaughterhouses are maintained. Prabhupada would be so upset, especially about, we are not against Christianity, and Prabhupada also was not against Christianity. Prabhupada told Jesus is a bona fide guru, and what Jesus taught was bona fide. But down the line, there's so much of misinterpretations for their own selfish purposes, like animals don't have soul and many things like that. And thou shalt not kill, and thou shalt not kill only humans, animals you can kill. Prabhupada was so upset. He said that why you are not developing your love for God? There is a reason. Because you are not following Jesus. Very strongly rooted. Because you are not following Jesus. Jesus has told thou shalt not kill, but you are killing. So because so much you are killing, you are not following God, that's why you cannot develop your love for God. That was the point Prabhupada was mentioning. So, and Prabhupada is saying that so many slaughterhouses are maintained. And so many animals are killed. So then how will you develop love for Krishna? You're so much displeasing the Supreme Lord. You're so much displeasing Jesus. And then somebody said that, but Jesus also took some meat or something like that. Somebody was arguing. Then Prabhupada said in exceptional cases, if there is some kind of threat to life, one may accept sometimes. And one can, reach Krishna consciousness. These are very exceptional things. Prabhupada did not take that argument only. He did not get into detail whether Jesus ate or not. But Prabhupada's point was very clear, that the devotee cannot have this kind of hypocrisy. That he is doing some kind of, religious rituals, and claim that he loves Jesus and God, but he's not following his orders. He's not obeying. So Prabhupada says, where is your love? If you are obeying, then you should offer. You should also. If you love God, then you should obey also, like that. So you can see that modern civilization, even the name of religion, also people are, simply having their own agenda to satisfy their tongue, their own self-gratification. Even religion also is being not properly followed. Meaning they use the name of religion to misinterpret things and do their own gratification. That's the problem. But in contrast, you see what the Bhagavad Dharma is teaching and what those who follow Bhagavad Dharma, those who become pure devotees, what kind of extreme level of compassion and non-enviousness and affection they have, that they want to even deliver, not just humans, but even those who may be in the lowest place of life also. We see that Shivananda Sen, Shivananda Sen was a very great devotee of the Lord. And when Mahaprabhu came after Vrindavan, trip to Puri, then it was informed to all the devotees in Bengal. So then all the devotees from Kulyagram and Srikhanda and Bengal, everybody actually they were going to Jagannath Puri. And that time Shivananda Sen, he was managing the whole thing. So Shivananda Sen was leading the whole yatra. And then when he was going, then suddenly one dog also came. And the dog, somehow, they joined that whole party. And Shivananda Sen was seeing that this dog has come. And Shivananda Sen was very much affectionate to the dog. And he was taking care. And once that one boatman, the Odishan boatman, then they had to cross the river. So he was saying that the dog cannot go. Usually, dogs are, among the humans, there was some kind of restriction. They were not really mixing because of their certain habits. So then they said, how can you take the dog? But Shivananda said, no, but he's also part of theatre. So he paid extra money, and then he had to give the way. And then he also sat, and the dog also crossed. And after some time, Shivananda Sen actually became late because of some toll reasons. He was involved in something. And then he was a little behind. And the dog went ahead. And then later Shivananda Sen, he got up and he came there in the evening to take his meal. Then he inquired, where is the dog? And then they said, oh. And then he asked, did you feed the dog? Then he said, no, because the dog was maintained by, when Shivananda Sen was there, he made sure the dog is getting food also. And Prashadam also. And then he said, no, we don't know. There is a dog and we did not somehow give him food. No Prashadam. And then Shivananda Sen was very upset. He was very unhappy. And he's thinking, but how can you not take care? He was there with this. And then when Shivananda Sen fasted that night, in the morning he sent people to go, 10 people he sent, find out where is the dog. In the night or morning, but he sent 10 people there. But they could not find. In the morning also they did not find. And then Shivananda Sen was very unhappy that he did not properly take care of this living entity. And then they went to Jagannath Puri. Then Mahaprabhu came and took darshan along with all the devotees, took lunch, came back. And then next morning, when devotees came to Mahaprabhu, that time they saw the same dog was there. And Mahaprabhu was eating and feeding the coconut pulp, this green coconut pulp to the dog. And saying, chant Krishna, 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 Rama, like that, they're saying. Then the dog was chanting, and everyone was surprised. How the dog was able to chant? And then, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the dog actually goes back to audience. Because then they find that dog is no more there, and they were informed that all dog has gone back to audience. So you can see how here Shivananda is saying, forget about in this world how people take kill and so many things. He was actually delivering the soul back to God. And I was telling in the beginning that it cannot be compared to how sometimes there is in some countries they may keep pet dog and they so much take care. It is not that because then they eating meat also. So that's a kind of hypocrisy. So that is their own some gratification to keep the dog and take care to get some kind of emotional love or something. Because many times they are feeling lonely. So it is not that kind of attachment that Shivananda had. Shivananda Singh had for the dog. That is a very pure compassion for that living entity, whom he did not see external power. He did not see that he is some kind of dog or something. That's a vision actually. Vidya Vinay Sampani, Brahmani Gavayati, Junitava Sapakicha, Pandita Sambadarshana. That is a vision. And it is not just the vision of a Jnani, where he is only seeing the soul. The vision of a devotee is that he is part and parcel of Krishna. And he needs Krishna. That is the vision of a devotee. So he was very much anxious that this dog is going to Jagannath Puri. So, and surely by the prayer of mercy of Shivananda Singh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed that dog, and he attained Krishna also. So this is the vision of the devotee. Devotee sees every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, like that. So that's why when we become Krishna conscious, then automatically that vision is there, because one gives up envy. The degree we give up envy, to that degree one can actually take care, or one will not unnecessarily create violence, like that. So when it says here, unfortunately, modern society, okay, saying householders should not discriminate between the children and the poor animals. Yeah, there are many actually examples also in Shastra, like King Shivu Maharaj. Shivu Maharaj, when he was when pigeon approached, of course the demigods were testing when pigeon approached and asked for shelter because the eagle was chasing after the pigeon, and Shivu Maharaj was ready to even give his life eventually. We see that Shivu Maharaj says, okay, I will give you the equivalent amount of meat equal to that pigeon, to that eagle, he said. And he said, okay, but when he was trying to weigh, then always that the weight of pigeon was always greater. And he was surprised. But then he was cutting flesh so much, he was cut the flesh of his own body. But it was never becoming equal. The weight of pigeon was always there. And then he himself offered. He himself sat on that weighing in that balance. So he was so much ready, because Prabhupada explained this. He explained that when the Praja does not mean only the humans. The Praja includes all the living entities also. And they were very much responsible for the welfare of all the living entities. There is another story also, I don't know where is the reference, but the story we heard that once king's son, he drove over one calf, prince. So he did that. And then the mother cow very agreed. So she could go to the king's palace and there was a bell. Anybody could come for justice. So she rang the bell. And then king understood that, his own son has done that. He ran over playfully like that. So then king actually punished his own son only for that reason. So that's how they would feel so responsible, for all that. That's what Prabhupada is explaining here. That a Krishna conscious person, even the householder, should not discriminate between children and poor animals. Basically, and now modern context, it is very different. People people are becoming so much envious, so much oriented towards their own gratification, that people are killing their own children also. What to speak of treating poor animals as equivalent to children, and people are killing even children as well. So much of abortion is happening, and it is mentioned it is mentioned in future that people will, they will just eat their own kids also. This is such kind of dangerous situation. The whole civilization has become so much, demoniac that here is written that there is not discriminate between children and poor animals, but they don't discriminate between children and poor animals eventually in terms of the gratification also. In completely opposite way. What here is mentioned that, like how children should be protected, taken care, same way poor animals also should be. So unfortunately, modern society has devised many means for killing animals in different forms of life. For example, in the agricultural field, there may be many mice, flies, and other creatures that disturb production. And sometimes they are killed by pesticides. In this case, how such killing is forbidden. So one principle is that sometimes for cleanliness and certain things one may have to take certain measures, but one should be able to reluctant to actually kill, because that's not the nature of Vaishnava. That the unnecessary killing is always not encouraged. Prabhupada could always, it's very challenging. But Prabhupada, once he was asked that, can we kill the cockroaches or mouse or something, like Prabhupada said, no, you should be killed, because they're not keeping the king of this planet. But of course, there can be different contexts and situations, and leaders may have to take certain decisions based on what is the best there, because sometimes the reasons of that may not be the central reasons, there can be many other factors. Like I think in this area, a lot of rats are there because of many other reasons. Because the area which was something of some nature. But anyway, that's it's quite a topic where different devotees may have different opinions about. But the point is the Prabhupada and Acharyas, they want us, we don't unnecessarily kill, basically. But yes, for protection and some kind of important services, there is some kind of obstruction, then we may have to take certain measures. But honestly, we should have the restraint, not to think. Very important. Like we know the past time of when Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur and Prabhupada saw the Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was ordering his own brahmachari to kill that snake. Here the snake is also written. Very interesting. The snake also should not. One should treat them as kids, children. So there, Prabhupada was surprised how Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is telling. So the reason is mentioned there. Later came the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishika Sarpahatya Sa. Then Sadhu also they becomes pleased. Because the reason is explained that unnecessarily they bite, unnecessarily they kill. So that's why sometimes they may be killed. But his only Chandravali Maharaj was saying one point. If you are non-envious like Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, then you can kill. So anyway, the point which we can understand is that sometimes it may be required because of protection. Because we want to protect the devotees and protect the community. Sometimes it may be required. But we have to be also careful that we are not simply exercising our envy and hatredness also. We have to be very careful. So it is best to be guided by some senior devotees, not whimsically we just kill. So we can at least act on somebody's instruction who are non-envious. At least that much we can think of, I think. That's what I could understand. Because how we are going to exercise in certain situations, but sometimes it will be required. But then we have to also see that we are not just killing because we take pleasure in killing. Like anyone wants to kill someone and say, okay, chalo to walk you kill all the snakes. So, yeah, if it is really a service given by pure devotee, maybe the devotee will be purified by doing a service. But we should see our own heart, that we are not just killing out of envy. So, and we can see the examples of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was in the cave and there was a snake. And then many were becoming afraid to come in that cave also. But the Haridas Thakur, he was not disturbed. He was completely absorbed. Paramatma is in his heart also. He was not at all so much disturbed by that. But eventually, Haridas Thakur said, because all of you are getting disturbed, so I will leave you. But then snake only went away. You can see that. So Haridas Thakur was not like so much just bent upon. I mean, of course, that stage is very great. We may not able to imitate that. So, but the point is that it is not that the pure devotee has any problem with any belief. So, when somebody like Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, when he is saying, so he is completely non-envious also. And just for protection of the devotees, he may order that. But we know that there is no envy towards any divinity. For that matter, even Lord kills the demons, correct? But he doesn't kill them out of envy. That is only out of compassion and love only. So every divinity should be nourished by the food given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know the example of Prabhupada's father. He would keep some eatables for the rats so that they don't bite the clothes. And he did that also. So every divinity should be nourished by the food given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Human society should not consider itself the only enjoyer of all properties of God. So that's the main point I was saying that this mentality of mind can be given up only when we see everything as Krishna's. Rather than one should understand that all other animals have a claim to God's property. So this is spiritual communism, that everything belongs to God, and so all this living entity also, that is also belong to Krishna only, Isha Vashanam. This is spiritual communism. So they also have right to live. They also have right to be maintained. For our taste of tongue, our taste buds, we shouldn't unnecessarily exploit and kill them. They also have right to live. In this verse, even the snake is mentioned, indicating that a householder should not be envious even of a snake. Everyone is fully satisfied by eating food that is a gift from the Lord. Why should there be envy between one living being and another? In modern days, people are very much inclined towards communistic idea society, but we do not think that there can be any better communistic idea than which is explained in this verse of the Lord. Even the communist countries, the poor animals are killed without consideration. So they are talking about being communist, but they are killing the animals. So their communism is not proper. But here is the real spiritual communism. So Krishna conscious vision can automatically make one true communist, spiritual communist. So although they should have the right to take their lot of food with which to live. So basically the root cause of all these issues is envy, and when the envy is resolved, then the love is there, compassion is there. So unnecessary violence is always condemned. And sometimes violence may be there from Western side, but it is only on the as a matter of service, not out of envy. Like when Arjuna was fighting, when Krishna was involving Arjuna to fight Pandavas, that's not out of envy at all. When they were Prabhupada glorified Arjuna, in this Srimad and Bhagavad, how they are so reacting. Prabhupada glorified, it's a soft heartness. He's a Vaishnava, he doesn't want to kill. But only out of order of Krishna, sometimes they may exercise violence also, it is required. So that is okay. So like that, as we get more and more free from him, we actually want to honor and respect every divinity. And what to speak of devotees there? So devotees, are very, very dear to Krishna. So there is no question of any kind of violence or disrespect to Vaishnava. That's why this is one of the lessons which I was thinking for my life, that how he's so much of standard of one should take care of animals also like that. So how much devotees? That's why devotee care is a big thing in ISKCON. That how devotees should be taken care all the more. There's no question of violence to devotees or disrespect or not honoring them properly. So it's a great lesson, because the degree we become Krishna conscious, we actually are free from envy. To that degree, naturally we will respect the devotees, and we will serve the devotees and please Krishna more and more. So let us pause here. Let's see if any question. Not question, that's one coming.
There's one story in Seattle, 1968. One devotee, a new devotee, initiated named Jivananda, and he had never been with Prabhupada in his room when Prabhupada was visiting there, and came in the room, and Prabhupada was leaning down, either on the table or on the floor, and he said, "Do you see this ant?" And Jivananda looked, he didn't see anything. And the Prabhupada said, "Do you see this little ant?" Jivananda, I don't think he still didn't see anything, but he said, "Yes, that's so." So yes, Swamiji. And Prabhupada said, we should chant Hare Krishna to this ant. If we do that, our whole movement will be a success.
There you go. Radhanath Maharaj says when he got the service of removing the weeds. He just chant Hare Krishna and then cut for all the individual plants. Even Vasudeva Lekar also, he was keeping the insect back to him. It is too much. He was like, within for our protection, for our maintenance, we can sometimes, but it is extreme. The Western compassion, they are putting that on their own body. The form, their own body. That was something very. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the mercy and he got freed, and he was worried, I will become proud. So
his body just like his body does not belong to me.
yeah.
So that his body is being part and they are getting young.
Correct. This is not my body, Krishna. They have right to be in my body, not my body. That's what this mentality of I was saying in the beginning. That me and mine mentality, that is the main problem. So especially for here it is mentioning that how Grihastha, this mentality, like this is mine, that is mine, should be Krishna, it's Krishna. As for everyone, when it is Krishna, then we will have hard to take inconvenience and see that they are also taking care of them, because they are there. They have, because they see the soul only and see very much in connection with Krishna, so it's possible for other people. So let's pause here. You want to say something?
Gandhi Dev was he was supposed to die, but what is again, he could not drink the water with that. And he gave us the second dollar brought the dogs.
Yes. Kata Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.